Alright, today we're going to take a brief look at a couple different blended learning pieces that we currently have in place at Summit and looking at how to fully utilize all the reports and extra practice materials that we can get from these resources. We currently have subscriptions to Renaissance Learning, which is our STAR Reading and Math, Lexia, as well as the RAS piece of Reading A to Z. So we will start with STAR. I'm just going to go to the regular website that I use to access any of my reports for STAR, whether it's at home or at school, just this regular login page. I am going to walk you through the reading reports, but the steps that I show you will be the same for the math reports, so this is beneficial for both areas. I could do this for early literacy, but today I'm going to focus on the STAR reading. If you would like help with the early literacy component, I'd be happy to walk you through it another time in person, but for now I'm going to focus on the reading component. So I'm just going to go under STAR reading, I'm going to click reports, and this brings me to the screen that gives me all of my options for reports, as well as a description of what that report covers. There are 4 reports I'm going to show you today. They are the instructional planning report, the class version, and the student version, as well as the state standards report, the class version and the student version. So we will start with the instructional planning report. This report allows you to generate a list of needed standards and skills for particular groups of students at a time, or for your whole class at a time. I have my instructional group set up to be by current ability, not necessarily ability, but by current performance. So you can see here that this is arranged from high scores all the way down to low scores. So this is the current top student in my class, this is their current scaled score, and they are currently in the 98th percentile when compared with nationwide third grade peers. I have my highest reading group set for anyone who is close to the 90th percentile or higher. So these students all have instructional group 1 indicated in this column. My next reading group down is my 70th percentile to mid-80s. At this point I kind of have a little bit of a gap here. So this is the next several students down. They all have the same instructional group 2 indicated. Then my third group, and then my bottom students, or my lowest group. It is possible to leave students out of this. So if you feel that there's a severe discrepancy between possibly your bottom student and the group above them, because you can only make 4 groups at a time, you could leave that student as unassigned and then access their report on an individual basis, which I'll show you how to do next. So I get my group set the way that I want to, and then click Next. I confirm that I am pulling for third grade language arts, Lang 2013 to 14, and I do want a page break after each group so that I can file them in the right spot in my plans. Now this report will generate the needed skills for each set group of students broken apart. So at the top of the page you can see that my group 1 has 7 students with a median scaled score of 737. The lowest scaled score currently in that group is 644 and the highest is 938. Breaks down all the way through your 4 groups for you. So looking at this top group of students, this is broken down according to the Common Core divisions. So the reading literature standards are all going to be together. Under the key ideas and details, these students are currently working at a 7th grade level of analyzing how characters' actions, thoughts, motivations, and relationships shape the plot. This wording is the 7th grade RL1 standard. This GR stands for grade. So as I look at the reading literature standards, I see these double arrows. Those indicate focus skills. They are the most critical skills at a grade level, and they are also frequently, not always, but frequently the skills that you get the most bang for your buck in increasing STAR scores if you focus on those skills with this particular set of kids. So it breaks it down for you for the reading literature skills first. Scroll down, I get my reading informational skills. And I'm seeing a mix of 6s and 7s here, occasionally one higher than that. So they are currently working on the 6th through 8th grade standards is essentially what this is telling you. They need instruction on the 6th through 8th grade standards in order to grow in STAR. This is the language section of the Common Core, and that's all I get. So now I'm on my second group of students. I have these 6 students in this group. And here, same thing. Here are the skills that these students need. Again, the double arrow is the focus skill, and the GR is the grade level that the standard falls under. So a lot of 4th and 5th grade standards for my middle groups. Those are the things they need to master to grow. And then if I scroll down to my lowest group, I see many more 3rd grade standards and even 2nd grade and probably also 1st grade standards that have not yet been mastered. So these students have not mastered this 2nd grade standard of determining the central message or moral of fables or folktales. So in order to increase their scaled score and show growth on STAR, I really need to be making sure that I'm instructing these students on these things. Now, as always, keep in mind that STAR is one measure and it's not necessarily 100% accurate. So if you know from your other anecdotal notes or from other assessments that these students have mastered the 2nd grade standard of central message, then discount that. It's not an end-all be-all. This is what these kids need. It's just a general picture of, in order to increase their score, these are the things that need work. So this, again, was the class instructional planning report, and I accessed that by grouping my students and then having it generate the report. I can return here if I want to adjust something. Let's say that I accidentally put someone in the wrong group. Maybe I meant for this student to be in this bottom group instead of the top group. Clicking on that button I just hit, or that link I just hit, brings you back to this page. Now to show you, I'm going to go back to my reports. I'm going to go to Instructional Planning Student. This is the same setup of a report. It just breaks it down by student, so this is a very good tool to use for conferences or for individual or small group planning if you have your students grouped in a way other than ability planning or other than ability or current performance grouping. So let's say that I am having an RTI meeting with Caitlin regarding Caitlin, and her mother really wants to know what's holding her back. What doesn't she have mastered that is leading to her lower than desired STAR score. So I selected a specific student, and I will see just Caitlin's stuff. So I see her most recent test and her projected growth by the end of the year. And I can see that these are the things that need work in order to get that score up into this green section. The things that are concerning to me, again, are the things that are the double arrow and anything that is my current grade level or lower. So these are the 3rd grade skills that she has not yet mastered. Anything that has a 3. Double arrow is the biggies. This is alarming to me because this has a 2nd grade, grade 2 next to it. So compare and contrast the most important points presented in informational texts on the same topic. This is something that really needs to be hit in an individual or small group situation with Caitlin. That also tells me what kind of materials that I could pull to pass on for her mom to work on with her at home, to give my reading intervention specialist a heads up, hey, can you do some comparing and contrasting with this group? I really think that would help her. She hasn't mastered that, etc. So those, again, were the instructional planning reports for the class and for the student. The other 2 things I'm going to show you are also very similar in the way that the class and student report were similar there. So we'll look at the state standards class report first, and then we will look at the state standards student report. Here I'm going to switch back to having my whole class. I want all demographics. That is possible to adjust this so that if you are maybe looking at your potential value added and you want to really hone in on a certain group of students, you can create a demographic group for them and only pull their data at a time. This is important that you change. I do not want to know if my students have mastered the Ohio Academic Content Standards because they're not the ones that we use anymore. So this needs to be adjusted to Common Core. I do want to show their projected growth. I'm fine grouping them by class. I don't really care if I group them by rank or alphabetically. Now this shows me by standard who has mastered and is above the mastery range, who is within the range of mastery for the standard, and who is below and has not yet mastered the standard. So for this standard, which is the Common Core Standard, English Language Arts, Reading Literature, Standard 3.1, I see that these students are above mastery range, this student is within, this student is below. It breaks it down for me for every reading literature standard, every informational text standard, and I believe, let's check. I believe also the language standards, but I'm not positive on that. Let's see. That's information. Looks like reading foundations, not language. So this would be your phonics and decoding skills. This also would include in third grade, it includes prefixes and suffixes, roots, and that sort of thing. So it gives me, for every standard, these are the ones who are above the mastery range, within the mastery range, and yippee, I don't have anyone below the mastery range for multiple meaning words and phrases. Looking at that from a little bit different angle, you can also access it for a specific student and see by standard what they have mastered, not yet mastered, but are in the range to master and aren't even in the mastery range yet. So I generated a group of reports for my whole class. You could do this individually by student also. So it broke it down by child for me. So this is the student's report. Across the x-axis down here, you have the different standards listed. The different colors indicate the mastery ranges. The dark green is that they are above the estimated mastery range. If the line falls within the light green, they are within the estimated mastery range. And if the line falls within the yellow, they are below the mastery range for that specific standard. So looking at this child's report, she is within the mastery range for all of the reading literature, reading informational text, and reading foundational skills. It looks like there are also some language skills on here. I just didn't scroll down far enough last time. This black line at the top is what you're looking for. This trend is across all of the STAR tests she's taken all year. So this is similar to the trend line on the annual progress report. That line that we always want to be perfectly diagonal and not horizontal, indicating upward growth. The green is her projected mastery by the end of the year. This would be hopefully a much different situation on a student who is struggling. They would likely have a trend line that was within yellow and green with mastery in the dark green. Or with the, I'm sorry, not mastery, the predicted outcome by the end of the year. They call it the projected outcome, higher in this dark green range. To look at a specific student whose report does look like that, I'll go back and customize this report and show you a student who I know was struggling. So I just switched it. I clicked the one kid that I want. I need to make sure that I have Common Core selected, and then View Report. Now his bars are a little bit more all over the place. You can see that he is below the estimated mastery range for the majority of the reading literature, reading informational text, reading foundations, and language standards. This trend line is over his performance across the whole year. So according to this report, he's only within the estimated mastery range of one of my standards. He's only above the estimated mastery range for one of my standards. He is within the estimated mastery range for a couple more than that. That's the bright green. But the majority of them, he is in the below mastery range. This lists for you by standard what they are above the range on, within, and below. The red arrow here indicates that they may not reach the estimated mastery range by the end of the year. So these yellow ones, particularly with the red arrows, are the ones that you want to be most concerned about. So that was again the State Standards Report by student. So that wraps up what I'm going to show you about STAR. We'll move on to Lexia. And I'm going to go back to my home page so you can see what it looked like when I first logged in, just so you can see all of my steps. So we currently have Lexia set up under one account, one administrative account, and we do not have the individual teacher usernames and passwords. So in order to log in here, you will need to use this username. It's dmartindale@ren.org, and the password is You can see Sparky 2013. I'm assuming this will adjust next year as we transition with the new principal, and potentially have individual teacher logins. It may also just stick as a reading intervention teacher. So we currently have students who are Tier 2 and Tier 3 on Lexia. We do not have our general Tier 1 students on here, so it does make sense that most of our performance, according to Lexia, will be this high risk, which is to be expected with the population that we have utilizing Lexia. What I want to show you that I think is the most effective and easiest, quick tool for you is under the Teacher Resources tab. What you're looking for are called skill builders. The instructional materials are also helpful, so I'll click on that really quickly. This just shows you all of the Lexia lessons broken down by level. So this starts all the way at their level 1. I believe they go all the way, I don't have any students this high. It looks like they have several different levels of core reading versus strategies for older students. I know I have a student who's currently on level 10 on Lexia, so it goes at least that high. But if you click on the lesson for it, it pops up, and this is a PDF, or this could be saved as a PDF, so you could save this on your iPad to pull up during your guided reading or your small group reading, however your reading block is set up within your room. You could use this tool then. You could also send this home. You could send it with a parent volunteer if you have an on-the-ball parent who could read this script and just go straight through here. With struggling student, that's more one-on-one time for them. The more the better, obviously, for those students. So these are the scripted lessons. I'll go back to Teacher Resources. All I clicked on here was View All Lexia Lessons. I believe you could also sort it by level, and I'll show you how to get your student's level in just a second. I'm going to go to Lexia Skill Builders available by student. I'm going to go to, let's see, well, we'll go under Mrs. Witt's class because I know where some students are there. So let's say that I want to print the materials that I can find for Zion. I click on this Lexia Skill Builders, and I see that he's currently working on sight words on level 5, or he's on level 10. He's on the 5th selection of sight words. And these materials are all things that will help him progress through that level. These all match that skill. These can be printed. Again, they can be used at centers with volunteers as homework, but an easy and quick way to access differentiated materials for students who you know need that really direct, systematic and sequential instruction. I will try to show you briefly. Hope that didn't work. Okay, never mind. Let's go back. Back to the Teacher Resources tab. I'm actually going to go back under Students here. I'll show you these are all the students who are on Lexia. Now, theoretically, as a teacher, I really shouldn't have access to this. So hopefully I'm asking someone to pull this for me, or I have been granted a teacher username. So I can click on a student, and I can click on, that's not what I wanted. Oh no, okay. Rewind and forget I said that. Let's go back to the Teacher Resources tab. I can view reports. Let's say that I want to report on the skills that my student is currently working on. So I clicked on the skill report, going to Summit, 3rd grade, all classes, and I want to select this student. This will tell you which skill builders to print. When I accessed it by student, it popped up individually, but for some reason not all students are showing up there. As I showed you, I went into Mrs. Witt's class to pick a student to show you quickly. This is the other way to access that. So I went under Reports, by student, I'm looking for the skill report. I can see that this student is currently working at level 11. She started level 11 in December. And she hasn't been on since February, so this was probably a bad example, but most students who have been consistently using Lexia, you will see the current level that they're working on, and then you will also see the past levels that they have already completed. and you will see their accuracy if they are highly or not highly accurate within that category. So I know that she's working on level 11, and these are the skills she's doing. So now I'm going to go back over to Teacher Resources, and I'm going to click View All Lexia Skill Builders. I can go down to level 11, and I know these are the skills that popped up for her. Let's say I saw synonyms and antonyms. I click here, and it opens. Again, this could be printed to do, you could save this as a PDF and annotate it in iBooks, so I could have a student do this on an iPad in front of me and save on those copy click charges, or I could, as mentioned, send it with a volunteer or as homework. So that's just a handy little trick about Lexia. The last thing I'm going to show you is resources on Reading A to Z that we have access to as teachers. So for, oops, that's not what I wanted. Let me go back. Oh. Let me just start over here. I'm going to go to razkids.com. And I have logged in. We have a school subscription to Reading A to Z, but we also have individual teacher accounts for Raz specifically. So on here, I can look at a couple different things. I can look, the most beneficial thing I think report-wise on Raz is the skill report. And the skill report can be viewed a couple different ways. You can view it by skill or you can view it by student. I personally feel as though it's more beneficial to view it by student, but I'll show you by skill first since it's right here, and then go in by student. So here's a list of skills that my students have been working on in the last 30 days. I'm going to go ahead and change it to in the past year. They've been working on main idea and details, cause and effect, all of these standards-based skills. I can click on a specific skill, and I can see all the students who have been working specifically in their quizzes on main idea and detail. So I can tell from this that Aiden has answered 194 questions on main idea and detail, and he's gotten 163 of them correct. He's 84% accurate on determining main idea and skill when provided a text at his current Reading A to Z level, which you can see here is level R. I can also view this by student, and I personally feel as though that's more beneficial. So to do that, I'm going to go to Manage Students, and I'm going to click on Aiden's name. Then I go to Reports, and I'm going to go over to Quiz Skills, and I see the things that he's been working on specifically in the last month. I can again adjust this to the past year and see all of his skills in a row. This is probably something I would print if I were having a conference with a concerned parent and say, I can see here right off the top, the lowest bars are the skills that are the most, obviously, least successful. So classifying information, he's only 75% accurate on that. That would be a concern, something that I would want to pull extra practice for him on. One really interesting thing that we can do on Raz that I don't think we fully utilize as much as we could is the ability to assign running records. So I'm going to go over to my teacher corner. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back under Manage Students, and I'm going to click on Assignments. So you can see here that I've already assigned several running records. If you have never done this before, you will have nothing in this category. It'll all be blank. You have your student name and their level, and then these other things will be blank. I'm going to select, let's say that I want to assign a running record to CJ. So I'm going to click CJ's name. And I can see a breakdown of what he's been working on. I'm going to go up to Assignment. And the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to click Assign an Assessment. I've selected CJ, and he is currently working at a level Q. I could give him a level Q assessment to make sure that he has mastered level Q. I could give him maybe a level S assessment to see if I haven't assessed him recently and he's made more progress than I thought. I could push him up here and see how he does on a level S passage. For today, I'm going to give him a level Q passage. Then these are the benchmark passages that Raz provides through Reading A to Z. I just select which one I think would be most interesting to him, or if we've already done a level Q, I'm going to select one that he hasn't had before. You can see it breaks it down by fiction and nonfiction, and I just click Assign. Then Success, CJ has been assigned a level Q running record. Now to view that running record, I'm going to go back up under Manage Students, and I'm going to look at my In Basket. Now, since I just assigned that to CJ, it's not going to be completed, so I'm going to select one that is actually already completed. Let's do Bella Dodley's. So she had an assessment on building robots, building skills, which was a level P benchmark passage. She recorded it in February at after school time. Now, after I hit the play button, her voice is going to start. I follow along with my yellow highlighter along here, and I just mark what mistakes she makes. As I mark, this information over here is going to change. So if I mark something that she does as a repetition, it's going to tally one repetition. If I have an omission, it's going to tally an omission. And then all of these things down here will also adjust accordingly. So this passage is 126 words. So until I have some miscues, this is what it's going to be. As I adjust, it'll also adjust.
All over the states that have been, all over the United States, all over the.
So I can already mark here that she's repeated several times.
Has been all over the United States.
And this playback isn't working very well. It's still buffering, so let's give it a second here.
All over the states that has been, all over the United States, all over the United States, did take part in a robot.
Take part in was a repetition, so I'm going to select that. Repetition, repetition, and then click play again. And I can get it back to here. Well, if my internet were faster, I could get it back to here immediately, but you can see how you just take notes as you would on a traditional running record, and it adjusts accordingly for you. Once I have finished that, I can type a message to Bella. I can say, great job on your robots running record. I'm impressed. Or I could give her suggestions. I noticed you had several repetitions. Maybe slow down and make sure that you're reading carefully the first time. I can also award her stars that she can spend in the Raz Rocket. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to move on to the retelling piece. And again, she will have recorded herself. I'm going to listen to her recording, and then I'm going to adjust my score on these different areas. So I'm looking for summary, main ideas, all of these things that have drop-down menus. It gives me a scoring guide over here and a total score over here. It also has a key skill developing and needs work.
Mine it was about it was about people building. So first it was telling you about people building robots.
And this was the only running record that I had assigned Bella, so it sounds like she's a little bit nervous. But typically, once you have your kids in a routine of how to retell and how the recording works and all that, it's a really quick and easy tool that you can have them do independently as you're working with a different group of students, and then you can go back and review these later. I can also write notes to myself. And I forgot to show you on the last screen, there was also a link to download the MP3. I am planning on using Evernote next year with my students, and I will have the ability on an iPad to use the Evernote app. I could download this MP3 to my computer, upload it to Google Docs, and get a link to the MP3. Then I can copy and paste that link into their portfolio, into their Evernote portfolio. So I could keep a list within my conference notes about a child throughout the year of their different running records and access to all the MP3s, which can really be a powerful tool when you're looking at determining progress they've made, adjusting goals accordingly, sharing things at parent-teacher conferences. This is some real true-time evidence. Doesn't get much more valid evidence than an audio recording of your child reading of the growth that they've made. So the last thing that I can look at on here is her quiz score. It looks like she answered 3 out of the 5 questions correctly, and it also breaks it down for you. So as I was showing you the skill report earlier, it tells you this question had to do with main idea and detail. This question is now considered in that skill report that we generated earlier. So I'm finished. I've seen everything I need to see. And that was quick. That was maybe like 3 minutes that I spent listening to that running record, if everything goes according to plan. So that is all I have to show you today on our blended learning tools that we currently have subscriptions to. If there's anything that you would like some one-on-one help with, I'd be more than happy to sit with you and look through your class. I know the running record thing can be a little bit overwhelming to manage at first, so if you want more specific help, they do also have a handy little video for you here. There's an in-basket overview, and there's also, they have an assignments video as well. And I would be more than happy to sit with you and show you in person how to do all this. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.